Все, запись пошла.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. We are the organizers, and we suggest that we are still to wait several more minutes to have more participants. We really appreciate you being here, and we appreciate your interest in the AAC development in Ukraine. Maybe like in 2 minutes, we will start our event. Let us start this webinar with our appreciation to our Israeli colleagues, particularly Yonit, who is going to share her and their experience with us today. We all know how important it is to build a community of people who work in this area, in the area of AAC. We have been working hard all together to promote AAC development in Ukraine. The aim of our today's discussion is a meeting to look at one of the very best practices in the world in terms of AAC development in the world. And by the way, we have a lot of stakeholders of this process in Ukraine, parents, specialists, organizations that work in the field. We have established and created a website, and we are going to share the link to this site in chat now. And I hope if you have any questions that might arise to our colleagues from Israel, you can send them to our chat box, and we will be happy to hear Yonit's answers. If you have some specific questions about what AAC is and what specific tools or devices can be used in this area, please don't hesitate to ask such questions. We would be happy to share whatever we have accumulated in the AAC area. I mean, all the applications and resources. We also encourage you to share anything of value that you might have, to share it with us. We want to exchange actively with each other. And now let me give the floor to Oksana, who is the co-host of this event. Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to see so many familiar faces. My name is Oksana Krivonohova. I am an expert in early intervention, and I'm a national trainer of early intervention. In our area of expertise, we use AAC tools and approaches a lot. We use it extensively. the introduction of AAC system should not be some isolated steps scattered around our projects and efforts. It has to be a comprehensive system integrated throughout Ukraine. And the best practices say that we would all benefit from continuous exchange between all the organizations, parents, and specialists. Unfortunately, there is definitely lack of platforms for all of us to exchange best practices with each other. So today, when we learned about the national system in Israel, I mean, this is a national system, and they even have National Center for AAC. When we learned this, we asked UNIT to come here and share with us their experience. This is the main topic of our today's meeting, but I hope this is not the last meeting of this kind, because I already received some practical questions from our Ukrainian colleagues about specific techniques, methods, tools in AAC. So I probably think we would be able to keep meeting and looking into practical matters. And I know that Israel has quite a lot of things to share about cutting edge technologies in AAC. That's very interesting too, but we have to start somewhere. So let's start probably with the very essence, with the national system of AAC in Israel. And I hope, and I'm sure we will be able to take advantage of the shared experience from Israel to Ukrainian context. We have interpretation today, simultaneous interpretation into Ukrainian. You can look at the bottom toolbar, you will find a globe icon there. You will see English and Russian, but sorry, our Zoom was not giving us an option of Ukrainian language, but we will anyway be interpreting into Ukrainian. Hope Zoom is going to do a better job next time. So please keep in mind that when you see Russian channel, you will hear Ukrainian interpretation. If you use interpretation, please disable the original audio so that you can hear only one language, not to get confused. If you have any technical issues, you can write about them in the chat and we will try to help you. If you have lost sound or something is wrong, please say so in chat. And also I would like to ask UNIT to it's a favor from on behalf of UNIT to type your questions into chat and we will ask UNIT. She will answer your questions if she can. So that's it from me now. Let me give the floor to UNIT. Over to you, please. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Could you make me a co-host, please? Can I share my screen? Okay. Okay, I cannot see you, but is it okay for us? Okay, can you see my screen? I cannot hear you. Okay, wonderful. So thank you.
Yes, yes.
Yes, everything is okay. Wonderful. So before I begin, Oksana, just something that popped into my mind for when you were talking. You could be on the first step of beginning an Isaac Crane chapter, which is going to be a great opportunity for all of you to learn a lot. So I'll talk about Isaac afterwards, maybe if I'll have some time. So basically, good afternoon. I'm speaking from 30 kilometers north of Tel Aviv in Israel. It's very hot and humid outside now. So we are at the first months of the summer. My name is Yonit Hagoel Karnieli. I'm a speech and language clinician therapist. and I specializes in AAC and in assistive technology. I'm working for an NGO called Ezer Mitzion. It's the largest NGO in Israel. We have 6,000 employees and around 30,000 volunteers. And I'm the director of the Ezer Mitzion National AAC Center. It's Israel National Free Loan Center for AAC devices, and we have so many more other divisions within this center that I'll tell you a bit more about. I was the former Isaac Israel chairperson for a few years ago. I lecture at the university, and I'm a guest presenter on AAC approaches at local and international conferences. In my center, we're doing collaborative consulting on AAC development project. I'll tell you a bit more about it, about the software developing and with the small startup, as well as Google International, Microsoft, within help from the European Commission. Apart from that, I'm a member in the team, and the team that pushed through the government approval for AAC. I'm talking about the Israeli government approval for AAC solution provision as part of the Israel Health Ministry package. So basically in Israel, every citizen that needs an AAC computerized device can approach the health ministry and get it. So just a moment. Sorry. I cannot hear.
It's some extra sound. We need to wait until the mic is off.
Okay. Okay.
It seems to be okay.
Okay. So what I hope that will come through this afternoon, is some learning objective. One of them is to demonstrate our Israeli National AAC Center activity, and through that learn about AAC services in Israel. The second learning objective is to describe collaboration with developers in the AAC field and talk about innovation in the field. And the third one, which I think it's the most important one, is learn how to start implementing AAC, but only very lightly, and through presenting a case study of AAC process with a young girl. So what is then the National AAC Center? It was created in 1997 to address the needs of every sector of the population with the severe communication challenges. In 2021, we have provided service to all eligible citizens who use AAC and loaned more than 2,000 devices, mostly computerized devices and eye tracking system. Take into account that we are a very small country. We are less than 10 million people. We make lots of noise around the world, but it's much bigger than our true size. And our main services are a free loan center to loan communication devices. We have accessibility unit within the loan center. We have a consultant team, and much more. So basically, how did we come into being? Each child and adult who has CCN, complex communication needs, is being taken care of by an SLP that works either for the Ministry of Health, in hospital, rehabilitation center, clinics inside the hospitals, or in the clinic that are operated by the medical insurance sections. There's no Israeli citizen without medical insurance. This is a must in our country. So everybody can have a medical insurance, of course. The second option is for children from birth until the age of 21 in the special education system. I could show you a case study of 18 months old toddler, young girl, that is in my caseload. And she is, again, 18 months old, a year and a half, and she uses an eye track camera and computer in order to communicate with her family and her special daycare center. Now, of course, we started. Okay. Sorry. Just a moment. No, I'm just talking a bit about what's going on in Israel now. Really? Oh, that's not good at all. Just a moment. Let's I'll try again to share. Okay, what can you see now? Okay. Learning objective, can you see it now? Okay, that's great. Oops. Okay, and now the Israeli National AAC Center. Okay, that's okay. Okay, wonderful, thanks. So basically, so we are talking about children from the age of, from being born basically until the age of 21 who are using, who are in need of special education system. And aside from the health and education system, of course, we have private clinics. So all our SLPs are at least with a first degree from speech and language hearing faculty in one of 5 universities around the country. We learn 4 years to become a clinician. And in the curriculum, we have at least 1 year course on AAC. So as a base of knowledge for a young emerging clinician, there is a solid knowledge about AAC and how to start working with people who need AAC. So how did we come into being basically in the Israeli National AAC Center in the 90s? So 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago, I was working in a special education kindergarten for motor impairment, mostly cerebral palsy. So we had lots of 3 years old until 6 years old with CP, with cerebral palsy. I was recommending to the parents to purchase AAC digital devices. Remember, in the 90s, we didn't have computers. We didn't have computerized devices at all. So the kids would outgrow the device, and I would come to the family, to the parents again, to say, we need to buy the next level device. And I thought that this trial and error phase should be taken care of by an organization and not by the parents. And as I started working for the NGO that I'm working for currently for the last 30 years, I approached my CEO, and we decided to open a pilot period of AAC Lending Center. After 6 weeks, we were left with all the shelves were completely empty. We were left with no devices, and then with a long waiting list. And then we started our center. In my personal and vision, and the goal for all of us, basically, we're therapists, researchers, educators, we're helping people without the ability to use spoken language. We all share a vision that no person should be forgotten and no one needs to be left behind without the ability to communicate verbally. So how do we achieve these goals? Sorry. The mission was to support and empower people and families, of course, who are confronting with the reality of communication impairment by enabling them to borrow and test devices before purchase. Another mission was to work with AAC population to develop and provide technology, AAC technology, which are solid, and to upgrade communication and therapy options, to raise awareness, to educate, to influence the professional communication fields and end users, families and communication partners, to tap into the most updated AAC solution, to provide services and advocacy, which makes available to patient in communication needs, and to create collaborations. So what are our service guidelines now these days? We are serving people as first come, first serve. Basically, we sometimes have a list of waiters, people who are waiting for in a waiting line for iPad with grid, for example. So the first one that came is going to be the first one that is being served, but terminally ill patient, like ALS patient, for example, are giving precedence. So basically, they are jumping to the beginning of the line. We serve everybody who holds an Israeli citizenship. The referred is being given by a speech clinician. So a family cannot approach us by their own saying, I Googled my son's problem and I saw that there is something like, what? So Dr. Google told me that this is something that is going to be really wonderful for my child. So I'm going to call you, fill up the form, and please give me this device. So this is something that doesn't happen with us. We advise the family basically to approach a therapist, and the therapist is the one who is going to decide what device or what option or what AAC strategy is good for the child or the adult that they support, and they are going to refer to us. Loans are free of charge. So even with an iTrack system, which is going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars, the loan is free of charge. The family pays us only for insurance. So basically, we take the insurance fee from the family and we give it to the insurance company. And of course, we are working under the direction of a steering committee that meet 3 times every year. Okay. So what is the idea behind loaning a device? The loan gives the user and the family and the therapist the opportunity, the chance to maybe shift from one communication stage to another before making a final purchase, or choose between a number of options. Could be maybe a child would need an iPad with grid, or maybe he's very destructive, so he's going to break 2 or 3 iPads for the loan center. Then we're going to say, no, not iPad. We're going to give him a tough book, a computerized device that is not be able to break. So it's a question of choosing between an option and benefit from a fair trial period before decision on a purchase. Sometimes a purchase is very, very costly, so we need to find out if that's okay. Sorry, it looks as if it's jumping here. Okay, so this is something that I've put, what happened to us since from 2006 until 2019. Pay attention to the changes in the computerized devices from 2005 until 2021. Of course, now we use mostly computerized devices and not digitized devices. And The age appropriate is very fit to the age of the society, the community, and something which is really very important for me to talk about is what happened from 2006 until 2021. Because I was talking with Oksana and she said that AAC is you use AAC mostly with children. And basically we started at the same point years ago. So if I looked at 2006, the total annual loans of my center was 63% for children with cerebral palsy. They were our main clientele at the center, because we didn't have option to give to adults, to grown up, to people with ALS, to people with MS, to people with aphasia, for example. Today, the annual loans are completely different, and they reflect the numbers of age groups in the usual society. So it's only 1% for people with cerebral palsy, but 32% for people with the acquired disabilities, so people who are more than 30. So in the last 15 years, the world of AAC has been marked by a shift in the AAC user demographic. More and more people with acquired deficits, such as patients with degenerative diseases, accidents, stroke victims, have begun using AAC technology in order to communicate for the loss of speech. This is so, this is such a major point for me to clarify and to bring out. The shift has taken place primarily because of growing awareness for the subject of AAC, including involvement of professional therapists in working with people with acquired communication problems and high-tech developing, of course. Okay, let's continue. Sorry. So from the start, when we started, we aimed to open collaboration with any entity that we thought will be able to help us in achieving our goals that I talked about, to help people who need AAC, their families, their communication partners, professionals, and other stakeholders. And all this collaboration helped. So basically, we worked through with the Israeli National Insurance Institute. They gave us lots of amounts of money in order to purchase devices. With Israel Ministry, Health Ministry, with higher educational academic establishments, with university, lots with hardware and software developer in the field of AAC. With medical entity, with lots of hospitals. This morning, I gave a course, a 5-hour course for a therapist, mostly speech and language therapists and some occupational therapists who are working with the acquired problem with aphasia in hospitals. And they were the main stakeholders of their hospital division, and we are meeting once every 2 weeks for a very intense course about AAC implementation for people with aphasia, for example. Lots of work with professionals, with startup developers and international funders, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. So developing AAC solution and resources. Do I need to stop for a minute to hear if there are questions or to continue on? Anybody?
I cannot see any questions in the chat box so far, so we can go on.
Okay, wonderful. So about developing AAC solution and resources. Until a few years ago, with the team of AAC specialists, we stayed within all my center, basically, we stayed within the boundaries of the Free Loan Center and also provided counseling and referrals for AAC users and the family. So basically, if you have, if a clinician somewhere has a AAC patient and she doesn't really know what to do with him, she would refer to us and we would come as a consulting team to help her establish a routine in order to help her to give a better solution, better treatment to the client and the families. We did it with speech practitioners, with communication clinic, and medical centers. But in the past 7 years, New Horizons somehow has, and direction in the AAC field has been instrumental in creating innovating platforms to achieve our mission. And I'm referring to the opportunity that high-tech gives us in order to, and technology gives us to be more capable in our tool and in our programs. So this one could be officially being created through collaboration between high-tech developers that come to the table with their knowledge and their skill, with our skills to create communication solution. These partnerships enable us to empower people, of course. Some resources we do on our own based on our abilities, like we have you see here, we have a program to teach children with complex communication needs how to read and writing skills. Or we do a how-to training to use gestures, for example, by online short videos that we put on the website, part of the multi-modality approach that I'm going to discuss a bit later. So some of these developing we are doing with our with our own knowledge as a therapist, but we are starting a lot. Sorry, this is jumping. Okay, but we are partnering in the development of AAC technology on a local and national and international level to promote improvement on the fields of AAC with startup developer. You know, Israel is called the startup nation, and we have lots and lots of startups here. So we team up with developer and we find sometimes international funders, for example, Google, to developing a software. So one of the things that you see here is click to speak. You see here. So this is a developer that was approached us, and he had an ALS, and he started building a virtual keyboard that is going to accept every language and is going to work with every mouse emulation that you can basically either download or connect into the computer. In the same time, a Google employee in the US got ALS, and she really wanted to continue working. So she surfed the net to find something that could help us. So she basically found the Click to Speak, our little collaboration and our little development. And then Google approached us and say, listen, we really want to help our employee, and by that to help other people to continue staying in their workplaces. Please take our money. It wasn't so easy, but eventually we got there in order to develop that virtual keyboard as a standalone solution, and we did it. we do lots more of development with VoiceIt, with eye control. I'm going to say more about it. VoiceIt, for example, is an application that has been conceived by a startup in Israeli company for people with severe speech motor difficulties, with the goal of translating unintelligible pronunciation into clear speech in real time using a speech recognition algorithm, basically learning data processing through voice database. So we are teaming up with this startup in order to continue working with VoiceIt. Just to show you, I don't, it doesn't work, huh? Maybe. Tell me if you hear it, okay?
Now I can start speaking freely.
Okay, did you hear, Oksana?
No, we cannot hear it. We cannot see. It doesn't play.
Okay, so it wasn't embedded properly, but basically she said something which is completely not understandable. So she is using her cerebral palsy voice, okay, to say a phrase, and then she takes the iPad that has VoiceIt on it, and she say it again, and in real time the iPad tell the sentence in a very clear and understandable sentence. You know what? I'm going to send the 2 videos into your group, and you can download it and hear it afterwards, okay? Because I don't have the time to go in and out again, okay? So we have click to speak, and it was this was the beta testing that was done with the American, with the Spanish, with the Italian, with the British, and here in Tel Aviv, where the startup developer are situated. We have other AAC technique, which is called, one of them is called eye control, that gives a very good solution for people who are unable to keep their, especially ALS patients, who are unable to keep their eyes open. So basically they are, the device read their movement of the eye, and inside and behind the eyelid, and they communicate via that possibility. So we have, we are in my team, we are doing lots and lots of development in order to continue helping. So basically, as I was saying all these years ago, our center would lend devices, right? And for people to test at home. We assist in making sure that they have the device that is just right for them. The loan period was up to 6 months, and then the user returned to the device, and they needed to purchase the device on their own, paying for the device. AC devices were not covered by the Israel administration, by insurance, or by any other governmental funding. So I was one of several SLP who felt that there was something not right about this setup. The government, in our opinion, should ensure that the citizens, that they can communicate. So basically, if the Israeli government is paying for somebody to have hearing aid, or electronic chairs, for example, they should pay for communication tools as well. If that's the only possible through an AC device, that should be recognized as a valid medical need and should be eligible for governmental funding. So we partnered together to make this struggle. It took us 8 years, long years. We began lobbying to help gain recognition, and each year we submitted a 900-page request for the Ministry of Health funding approval. Each year it was turned down. We said it was a device of well-being and not a medical device. And each time when we refused, we accelerated our effort and sought new ways to wage the battle, with media consultant to raise awareness, with to bring it to the public agenda. Finally, we dragged the Ministry of Health to the Supreme Court, and we won. So the Supreme Court of the Israeli Supreme Court decided that this is a medical device. And in 2015, we succeeded in gaining recognition to AAC users as entitled to full funding of AAC devices by the government. So there's an African proverb saying that if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So basically, what are the success ingredients? It wasn't my journey alone. It was a journey of a lot of us together. So perseverance, this battle lasted 8 long years. So if you want to make a battle to put AAC, inside your systems, don't discourage and don't give up. Network with others, include professionals, caregivers, family members, AAC users, parents of children, or parents of or family members of people with communication needs are especially helpful. To get out of the comfort zone, involving the legal system, for example, and going to the Supreme Court, it wasn't one of my life goals. I never dreamed that I would end up sitting in the Supreme Court and fight a cause that meant much to me, but to go to Supreme Court, it was a big struggle to be there. I'm not a person of protest or demonstration, but if that was what was called for to be effective, then that was what we did. And most important is, as I was saying, collaboration. It was a shared vision, and we didn't do this journey alone. As the result, my NGO, my unit, became the executive arm of Israel Health Ministry, and we are enabling applicants to test and choose appropriate communication devices and accessibility solution as part of the application process for obtaining AAC equipment through the Ministry of Health package. This is not matter. So before, I would like to take the time to, we don't have a lot of time, to present the Omer team. We are 5 SLPs and 3 OTs, and we have been running together for a long time now. Just a moment. 4 here, 4 here. And all the resources and the development were done by this team efforts and knowledge. So another advice is run with a team. One of the projects that we are very, very proud of is an online guide for patient and the communication partner for hospital use. We have thousands of people, I'm sure that you have the same, are hospitalized for acute care every year with medical situation that take away the ability to speak. For example, road accidents, victims, stroke patients. We have soldiers that are being hurt in the army. These communication difficulties can further aggravate the situation, and it stops recovery, create a great deal of frustration for everybody. The caregiver as well. So we have decided to create a tool that provides basic guidance designed to enable communication with the hospital patient in a variety of ways. And these tools can make immediate communication possible. We are using here, what I told you about until now was very high-techy, and now I'm talking about a solution that is very low-tech. It's an online interactive guide that assists family members and hospital staff to communicate with their hospitalized relative or patient and enable a patient to express themselves via simple AAC solution. It's a free guide and it can be accessed through our website. Basically, this is how it looks like from our developing side, but for family member, the guide is, it doesn't show this way. You simply go online and you answer question yes and no, and it brings you like a flow chart into the right possibility and right solution, simple solution. During COVID, we have done extensive amount of work in building a solution for intubated patients that have already, they were still intubated, but they woke up and couldn't express themselves. And we sent it to all the COVID hospitals or COVID department in the hospitals to use with the patient. You see here, this is something that was in one of our hospitals. So we have a kit for Corona patient that you can see in our website as well. Here, somebody who, a nurse that goes into a patient room and carries with her this tool in order to communicate with him. Spelling boards we did a lot. And this is the part of the spelling boards that I did, that I translated into Ukrainian. So let's start the next phase. How do we start? I would like to talk about the first step in building a communication system for a child. So let's start at the really very beginning. We don't have a lot of time. So a child is born, a baby is born, and parents understand precisely, because when a child is born, a parent is born, and the parent is very accurate about being a communication partner. We instinctively know when our child is crying because he's hungry, because he's tired, because whatever. But what happened in the case of a developmental challenge? We are talking about children with limited expression, so we have lots and lots of communication failures. You know, there was a study done in Israel by a great student in one of the faculties. She has she analyzed communication intent by young children with cerebral palsy in a special education kindergarten. And she has found that more than 80% of the children intents were missed by the staff. And we're talking about a very knowledgeable special education staff. So we need, in the case of challenges like this, we need to start at the very beginning. And the beginning is not when a child is 3 years old. The beginning is when a child is 8 months old. Because limited communication, without communication, we need to implement AAC strategies. So the need of the hour is first of all, assessment. And then identify the child communication needs in each environment. I'm not going to talk about the subject of assessment because it's going to take us 4 hours, but there's a lot to say about it. But I have to stress out the importance of taking the time, the effort, and the knowledge in order to make assessment. We need to check the child communication needs with several communication partner to take into the consideration the motor skill, the cognitive skill, the personality, as well as the character of the family. There are some really excellent tools that we can apply, but basically, what does the child communicate about at home? With grandma. I'm a grandma. I have 4 granddaughters, so lots of communication here. In preschool, I want to ask for a sandwich with a fruit. I want to answer a question. I want to get past and my friend is blocking my way. So many opportunities. And what happened in the supermarket, at the doctor's office, and the school bus, swimming, and more and more. So we need to take the time to make a profile. And again, as I was saying, there are some really excellent tools, communication matrix, social networks, for example, by Sarah Blackstone, dynamic AAC goals. These tools assess the linguistic, the operational, the social, and the strategic competence for the 4 profiles of communicators, the emergent one, the up to independent communicator. And it's not enough to put a device in front of a child. We need to realize that we all communicate differently with different communication partners. Again, Sarah Blackstone referred to these issues in social networks. Oksana, if you can remind me later to send you the social networks link, okay? And of course, we have the parents. These are the people who really know their child, and we need to realize what are their prospect, what are their intentions, what is their skill. Multimodality. I talked about it half an hour ago. We have to think in terms of entire system of supportive communication. So even if a child is given an eye-track system, it has other system of communication that can be applied as gesture, for example, and more. So we can match the device to the child only after study of the various needs that I was talking about very, very briefly. In the ideal situation, the speech therapist give the information regarding the suitable devices, but we need to have faith in the capability, the motivation. We need to find out what is the motivation of the parents, for example, and what are the resources, the family resources, the kindergarten resources, the speech therapist resources, of course. And we need to find out what are the age factors, what are the cognitive factors, what are the motor skill, the sight and hearing, the temperament, the personality factors. You know what, on each one of these slides, I could talk for an hour, really. I can't, but you know, it's only like a taste of what's need to be done. So basically, if we have become acquainted with a child's different environment and needs, and we become familiar more or less with the child motor skill, cognitive skills, and personality, the character of the family, we can start. So we need to think about the technological devices, or how do we organize the symbols, and what kind of systems we are going to use. So it's a journey of matching up of a symbol, how to organize them, and choosing the device. Maybe it's a low-tech or a high-tech. And we have to check ourselves all the time if we are meeting the child's need. So if we are thinking about choosing a suitable system of symbols, are we talking about photograph system symbols? Are we talking about gestures? Are we talking about graphic AAC symbols? Are we talking about sounds? We need to figure all these out. And if we are referring to a graphic AAC system, they pose a problem with some of the children, especially the young one or the low-end cognitively impaired children. Janice Light and Catherine Drager were talking about this a lot, about they argue that we are using symbols that are very difficult for children to understand. So they have done some really very interesting research about this problem. And they are talking about the beginning communicator, which the traditional AAC symbols are not applicable always to them because they don't realize what's that. I'm going to skip all this because we don't have the time anymore. I'm sorry. Just to show you, this is a regular board that is used by AAC symbols, and this is a visual scene. Okay, it stands for the same communication needs, but in a very different way. Now we are our team, my team and myself, we are developing an application that is going to use visual scenes that are going to be on display on iPads with hotspots for children that are pre-symbolic. We're going to use that as their communication devices. So how do we organize this system? The visual scene display in a separate pictures like PECs, in a communication book or device or on board that include only a small amount of symbols. How do we scroll with or without vocal input? Lots and lots of questions about that. And of course, we see where can we advance from a very concrete aid to an abstract one, for a system with few symbols to many, for a simple organization to a complex organization. Again, I don't have the time to go into that, sorry. I'm tired. And I would like to talk a bit about a child story, a case study that I want to share with you. Again, Oksana and I were talking, and she said that lots of the AAC work done in the Ukraine is a behavioral approach, or PECs. That's why I decided to show you Odelia, of course, with the permission of her parents, and the long journey that we have passed from pre-communication until using a computerized device. So she had a Pitt Hopkins, she has a Pitt Hopkins syndrome. She started treatment with me when she was 1.5 years. Severe apraxia, a very cognitively challenged young child, very pre-symbolic, not very motivated. The child that I was talking about when she was 18 months old was sitting on the carpet, and using her eye-track system, of course, was a different kind of treatment altogether, because she was basically cognitively unimpaired. But Odelia has a cognition issue. So what have we done? Do you remember that we discussed how to build a communication system by finding the child needs with the partners, with the family? So this is what we did. We identified the communication needs in each environment. We checked their communication needs with the communication partners in the kindergarten, special kindergarten, in their family, with the grandparents. And we took into the consideration the motor skill, the cognitive skills. So we started with her. Usually I don't start with food, but that was the main motivation for her. So we started with food as using PECs. and we continue to other environment and other communication partners. That's why I decided to show you this case study, because we started really very, very low. So Oksana, could you give me a feedback to if you can see the video, and if not, I'm going to go in and out, okay?
Yes, we can see. We can see.
Good. So the mom, she has an omelet, right? She has a sign, not a sign, but a picture of an omelet on her pecs. She uses only one picture. Her mother is waiting for her to reach out and give the symbol. And then she says, you wanted an egg, here's an omelet, please have it. So really very, very slow pecs, what's being done to begin with. And again, we started with food. And she was in a stage of the pre-symbolic. She didn't seem to understand the principle of communication as a mean to transfer information. So this is how we started. And of course, remember that PECS has 6 stages in the clinic. I'm moving, if needed, only for the first 3 stage. And then I'm leaving PECS and going to, after using it as in a very accurate, very precise way. And then she's in the stage 1, giving her mom the picture. The picture is put on top of a wooden block to help her pick up the block, okay? Because she had some problem in picking up the very flat and thin picture. So the next phase was, afterwards, we realized that she loved puppet. So we started fun games with puppets. Very important, again, to go with the child motivation. If the motivation of the mother is to have her, leaving the diapers behind and saying, I want to go to the toilet, this was not Odelia motivation. So we didn't go there. We went with her motivation. So again, we choosing from 2, using objects just to make sure, expanding to 3 choices. One of them is empty. 4, 6 choices, checking visual discrimination all the time, of course. And then onward to the road of communication, interactive reading that we did together. We are here on the road to communication. It took us 9 months in order to get to this stage. And again, Janice Light, when she presented the model of communication competence, said that communication is more than requesting. I didn't want Odelia to stay with requesting an omelet, requesting a puppet, requesting a movie on my iPad, or requesting a book to read. I wanted her to share information, to exchange idea, to participate in routing. So we passed from text to the road to communication. She used gestures as well. We started implementing using yes and no, and exposure to verbs and communication intentions. Here, her mom asked her, she comes back from school, from kindergarten, and her mom says, how was kindergarten? And they opened the iPad with the touch it here in the place which shows her emotions and emotional degree. And she said, how was school today? How was school? It was fun. I was happy. Okay, so look at the journey from an omelet asking with PECS to the communication path through an iPad. with lots of communication intent. Sorry. Okay, so we moved to use iPad as a communication tool, to choose, to expand, to start using core-word lexicon like I want and more and enough and something else. And we created sequences by using 2 gestures and by using 2 words on the iPad. And we have exposed it to the concept of verbs and to use verbs. Okay, here you see something else going inside and to another page. Enough, more, I want to go to the bathroom, and 4 children rhymes that she wanted to, that she loves to hear. It took many, many months until we reached, I'm jumping 2 years here, to use, started using the iPad as a main communication tool. We have built a dynamic system, again, starting with fun activities. At that point of time, she's starting really loving songs, and she hears her mom sings, and she waits for songs to stop, and she learned to navigate between pages on the screen. She knew how to press. So you see here, she has bathroom, enough, more, I want, categories to dress myself, and then she goes to choose her clothes. I want to drink, and then she goes to decide what kind of drinks she wants to eat, and then she goes to decide between breakfast, lunch, and then lunch gives her a possibility that can be given at home, to go to hear songs, to play, to hear a story. I want to tell something that happened to me in kindergarten, okay? People and how I feel. So very extensive, okay? And there's a lot of studies going on as to how to build pages like this. Just a moment. Now, these are last year achievements. It's been a long, long time. And now, as of last year, we have integrated her learning curriculum with the help of her AAC system. So we are doing lots of counting and identifying written words and sharing experience. So here in this movie, her mom, there's a food that Israeli kids really love. It's called bamba. It's made out of nuts, basically. So her mom puts her some bambas inside her plate, and she asks her how many there are. So she goes into her number, and she says here,
כמה במבה יש לך
how many bambas
בצלחת?
do you have in your plate?
1, 2, 3 או 4? תסתכלי טוב בצלחת. כמה יש?
How many are they?
תגידי לי באייפד. כמה יש?
Two.
2 במבה.
And here, oops, okay. And here she's finding globally written words.
איפה כתוב פה אודליה? בוא נמצא. איפה כתוב אודליה? נכון, תני לי. תני לי את המילה אודליה, תני לי.
Okay. Thank you. I'm stopping sharing now. It was an AAC course in an hour. Everybody is with me.
Yes, sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for your beautiful, wonderful presentations. We have lots of questions. Yes, we already discussed then more than we actually planned. So we wanted to hear about the national system of AAC, but we heard even more than that. What I suggest is coming over to the questions. Well, actually, you have already given lots of answers to the questions in your presentation. Yes, and there are some questions in the questionnaires that we sent out to our participants. So one of the question is, are there any legal documents regulating the AAC system in Israel? And if this is so which documents you can name?
Basically, the digital device has not gone into the package of health because they don't cost so much. So the decision, and basically they're not so popular anymore. We are very, you know, as a society here, we are integrating electronic devices and high-tech devices into every phase of our life. So you see children with no problem using iPads all the time. So lots of children with special needs use iPads as well, which are very, you know, like it's a main course. So we have lots of iPads, and but the high-tech devices went into the basket of health. I could find out if we have the documentation about it. Yeah, but again, it's going to be in Hebrew. But I could find out about what the American system said about AAC system being a valid, not educational and not well-being, but a medical device. It's there. And I could find it for you, if that's the question.
Yes, thank you so much. Next question. How are the AAC specialists trained, who they are, and how does their training look like in Israel?
I referred to that. Basically, we have 5 faculties within 5 universities, and our SLPs go through. It's the first degree is a 4-year degree. That the last year is more hands-on, but you know, part of it is in the faculty in the university, and part of it is in educational systems or health system. They move around from one place to another, and afterwards, for 5 years, they are working under supervision. Of course, you cannot become a speech and language therapist if you don't pass the Ministry of Health examination. You need to pass it directly after you finish with your BA. Most of our SLP go through the 2nd degree, the master degree as well. And the AAC curriculum is, again, implemented in all the universities, and it's mostly a year's course, so it's 2 semesters.
And this is for the speech therapists only, or
yes.
For whom?
If you're referring to the occupational therapist or the teachers and kindergarten teachers. Because even, you know, in Israel, I'm less familiar with the teaching, but basically in the seminars and in the university, when you go to become, you study to become a teacher, it's a 3 years faculty, you know, road to become a BA in learning disabilities or special education. And within that, they pass, I think, a semester on AAC. So to become a special education teacher, you pass through a semester of AAC as well. So a special education teacher or kindergarten teacher knows the basic of AAC.
Thank you very much. Next question. In Ukraine, we have a problem. There are very many myths about AAC. This is allegedly harmful, and if you implement gestures or graphical symbols, this impairs the development of the speech. So these kind of myths can be spread around by parents or even by the specialists. Do you have a problem like this in Israel? If yes, what do you do against it? Maybe there are some awareness raising programs. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Until 7 years ago, you could still hear that. So people would say, I would come and say, I advise to implement AAC system, AAC technology, AAC assessment, and continue on. And a parent would come and tell me, listen, it's going to hinder, I think it's going to hinder their ability to use spoken language. So I don't want it to happen. And he's lazy. So if I'm going to give him an AAC device, he's going to use the device and he's not going to struggle to become a good speaker. And it stopped around 7 years ago because you know, parents talk with each other. And parents go on internet, they go on website, and they are in groups. And when you have parents talking with each other, they realize that and you know, this is something that we could even hear with the professionals who were a bit more old-timers, and they were afraid, and they would even advise parents not to go there. But in the last 7 years, you don't hear it because there's research. And again, if you have a list of the things that you want me to send you, I can send you in that list. There's a research that shows on a very extensive check that children who are given AAC devices and AAC strategies. And you know what, Oksana, I see that in my clinic, which is right behind me. This is my office, my clinic is behind. I see that in my clinic every week. If you give a child an AAC system, the AAC system is going to push forward his ability to communicate verbally. And because if he presses something and he hears there's the vocal output, he's going to hear it, and it's going to be a referral point to him as well. And you know, if we talk, I talk very quickly now, and I talked very quickly. My physical speech is here, and it's disappeared in a few milliseconds. If I show a visual sign of any kind, it stays with me. And it stays here, and it's a good referral point that you can hear more and more and more. And this is what children relate to. And you know, there's something which is called the blueprint. We as human beings are built, I don't know, whoever, somebody believes in God or whatever, we don't go into that. But our blueprint as human being pushes us against the gravity, right? So we're not going to stay on the floor for the time because it's very difficult to go on 4 and then to start walking. And we are built as people to start talking. All the spoken languages in the universe are the same, using phrases, using consonants, using consonants and vowels, okay? And using spoken language. And whatever device I'm going to throw at a child or anybody, never mind what the device is, the inner humanity is pushing towards spoken language, okay? And aside from that, aside from being a specialist in AAC, specializes in myofunctional therapy, in prompt, and in other strategies like OPT. And when I push AAC forward for communication, and I push a prompt and myofunctional and oral placement therapy for spoken. If it's possible, it's going to become. Okay, so basically for the last 7 years, we don't hear it anymore. I hope that I answered your question.
Yes, thank you. We are really interested in seeing all the studies you mentioned, and you also mentioned some other link on the internet that might be useful to us. We would be happy to get them from you and share them with our participants. And one more question. Are there any age limits for ADC introduction if someone has already reached an adolescent age or is a grown up? Is it too late? And one more question, when do we start? Yeah, thank you.
So I cannot really give you a very good advice about the first question because we don't really have patients who are basically mute, you know. It's not as if I suddenly find a 22-year-old who doesn't speak, doesn't have any communication system here in Israel. It used to be that way in the past, but not anymore. But you know what? I got a referral by a psychiatrist for a person who was 22 and he had the ASD, and he stopped by the age of 21. He stopped going to into a special care school, and he stayed at home, and his AAC system simply, you know, fell through somehow, and he became very violent. And his parents took him to the psychiatrist to find out what can be done about this violent attack. And the psychiatrist said, so, you know, he looked a bit further to the past, and he said, oh, how does he communicate? And he said that, and they said, well, he used to communicate with but now he can't because we don't have it anymore. He's at home and he sees TV and basically, they decided not to put him in a sheltered living. And the psychiatrist said, okay, I'm referring him to a therapist in order to begin working again on his AAC system, because it turned very violent because he couldn't communicate. But this is the best I could give you in terms of your first question. The second question, when do we begin? I think that for children who basically it's there on the table somehow. So a Rett child, for example, or a child or toddler with ASD, that we know it's there, and he was diagnosed and she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy, GMFCS 5 to 4. In Israel, they go to a special care system from the age of 8 months. It's a special education system, and they get, it's a governmental project that was done between the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Education, to give children with special needs the possibility to go to a special kindergarten from the age of 8 months. So we begin implementing AAC system from the age of 8 months.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for this informative response. we have a question from one of our partners. She's a manager, PR manager. She works with Digital Inclusion Project, Alina Sevastyuk. We have the only Ukrainian language communication application in Ukraine. Anyone can download it on their device, mobile device, from App Store or Play Market. So Alina is one of our good partners in development of this application and implementation of this application. So she's asking you, Unit, what barrier-free environment means for you, and what would you recommend for developers of AAC developers? So barrier-free environment, and what would you recommend for the developers?
This is a wonderful question, because most of the AAC apps are operating on iOS, and it's not cross-platform because the AAC applications cost a lot of money. They are very long time, takes a long time to develop them on a very, on a solid ground. You have lots and lots of apps which are very, that gives you very slight possibilities, or very light possibilities. But if you want to really build a good and solid AAC system, you need to go via mostly Grid, by Touchit. These are the main application, and they are done in iOS, because iOS is a closed system and developers like to work in closed system and not in Android. Our application, for example, that I told you that we are building now, we started on iOS, but we are the aim is to do it as a cross-platform, because what we develop, we try to give it for free. So of course, an iOS and iPad cost much more than a usual tablet and Android tablet. And it's true in Israel, it's true in the Ukraine. Does that answer the question, or I hope that I understood it properly?
Yes, thank you. I think we have one more question which we need to voice, and that would be the last one for today. It's a very relevant question. You know that there is ongoing war in Ukraine, and we know that Israel unfortunately has quite an extensive experience in similar situation, and we know about your experience of using AAC in wartime. We have had a lot of issues related to just that. Children do not understand what's going on. Nonverbal children are even harder to explain what's going on in terms of the war. So could you please share your experience with this regard?
Well, basically, unfortunately, it's true for for you and us both. We have been carrying on for 70 years now. But the thing is, as our special education or children in need of AAC are basically born here, and they are getting familiar with their AAC system. So we put into the AAC system the pages and the relative symbols for all that is being needed in order to understand what is going on during a missile attack, for example. So, it's the same like what when we're doing symbol pages on COVID, for example. So we aim for children to understand what's going on during COVID, that you need to wash your hands and you need to apply mask in closed places, and you need to apply being I forgot, being away from it, 2 meters away from each other on one hand, and on the other hand, what are you going to do when there's a missile attack and you need to find a shelter, for example. So it's implemented within the system.
Thank you very much for your response. Let me remind you all that I hope that this is not the last meeting of this kind. We have a lot of very relevant questions that are actually quite pressing in our current situation. I hope that your NIT would be also willing to meet with us again, and we could go deeper into the high-tech devices and into the topics of different aspects of the reality we live in, and AAC, like war or pandemic, whatever. So with that, let me summarize and start wrapping up. We are planning to organize a series of the events, of which this one would be the first. UNIT has shared the Israel's experience in the AAC center and system. We appreciate that. Next time, we are going to have a roundtable discussion with various stakeholders, including the parents, their organizations, NGOs, government, and users of AAC. We really want to promote the issue of establishing national AAC system in Ukraine. So, dear participants, I encourage you to be actively engaged in our social networks. Let's communicate, because this is what we are doing here, right? We are talking about communication all the time. So please join us next time and all the following events. Let me thank UNIT once again. This is a very important step for us in Ukraine to learn from you and from your experience. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for informative webinar today.
Thank you as well for inviting me, and let's hope that the future of both our country is going to be better than it is now.
Thank you very much, Anna. Yeah, I also appreciate such meetings when so many people get together and exchange their concerns and knowledge. We cannot copy and paste any experience. And of course, we appreciate our international colleagues and their shared experience. So let me say that on the 30th of June, we hope to have this roundtable discussion that Oksana has mentioned earlier. You can see the link where you can join this event. We definitely need to understand what's going on in our country, in AAC area. If any of our participants have a willingness to say something, we have a couple of minutes, maybe, please. I see some messages in chat saying how informative and useful this webinar was. I think we have to wrap up. I don't think with that many participants we can afford everyone to say something. Anyway, let's hope for the best. Let's keep in touch and see each other again. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yonit. And let me thank our interpreters, because this is an important thing. And I know that our topic is not that simple for interpretation. Thank you. Let's keep in touch. We will be happy to get any requests or ideas from you. We will be in the loop with all our experts and with you, our dear participants, so that we could build a nice system in Ukraine together. Thank you. Thank you. And see you next time.
רוצים לדעת על ריזיק